Hi, today we're going to go through fixing some Magneplanar MG1 speakers. These speakers go back to the 1970s. I purchased them used, and I didn't pay that much for them. You can find these on eBay and other sites for a couple $100. Whereas if you price new Magneplanars, you're going to notice that you can pay up to a couple $1,000. So why such a good deal? This is an older model Magneplanar, and older Magneplanars tend to suffer from a couple of well-known problems. The mid-bass and bass wires, the thicker wires, tend to peel apart from the glue that attaches them to the mylar sheet that we'll see in a few minutes. Also, the very, very thin aluminum wire used for the tweeter section of the speaker over time becomes corroded and actually breaks. And that's the problem with this speaker, or these two speakers. They sounded fine when I auditioned them. I bought them home, and I noticed the speaker on the left, there was an issue with the tweeter, and I replaced that tweeter, and now I've got the same issue on the right speaker. How do I know that it's the tweeter, not the mid-bass or bass section of the speaker? What you'll notice is that either the music will sound fine, and then it will cut out partially, and it will sound like the sound has been muffled or a blanket's been thrown over your speaker, or the music won't sound quite right, and all of a sudden there'll be a burst of high-end frequencies, and it'll sound brighter, and there'll be more musical information at the high end. The other problem that affects these speakers is that the thicker wires come unpeeled from the glue, which is a separate issue, and that manifests itself with a buzzing sound. If you want to determine whether or not you have that problem, I'd recommend going on Amazon.com and picking up a used copy of Brian Eno's Apollo Atmospheres and Soundtracks. I can pretty much guarantee you that playing that CD, if you've got peeling wires in the mid-bass, mid-range area of the speaker, you'll hear buzzing either at the top of the speaker or maybe around the center of the speaker at the bottom. So two different symptoms, two different causes, and the problem we're going to attack today is the tweeter. So in a moment I'm going to set the speakers down, take them apart, and I'm going to go over the tools that I need to replace the tweeter wire. This repair project's not very expensive, a lot of very common items, but it does require investment of patience and time. Alright, I've taken the speaker that I'm going to repair, and I set it face down on a small table that I cover with cloth. Speaker's not that heavy. There you can see the model. It's a Magneplanar loudspeaker model MG-1. IMP stands for improved. What we basically have to do is take the speaker apart. We've got 3 screws along the bottom that are going to come out. And then we have a series of Phillips head screws that attach the frame. And we're going to take those out. We're going to remove the top. Not a very complicated project. Here are the tools I'm going to need to do this, and they're actually quite simple. I've got a screwdriver with various heads. I'm going to use the Phillips screwdriver and the regular head. I have a Sharpie marker, and what I'm going to do with that, as I disassemble the frame, I'm going to label the parts. I'm going to mark the top bar with a T, I'm going to mark the left side with an L, the right side with an R, and the bottom side with a B. That's going to help me at the end of the project. When I reassemble the speaker, it's going to prevent any confusion. It's just going to speed things up. Now, I have a very small screwdriver I'm going to use to gently remove the fuse. You know, I don't have to have this to take out the fuse, but it makes it quite simple. There are the fuses out. And then when I take the frame apart, I'm going to remove this mesh fabric. This is what's called the sock. And I find it's handy to use one of these picks to take out the staples, as you're going to see in a minute. These things are pretty cheap. You can find them sold in a set at a Lowe's or a Home Depot. So I'm going to start with my screwdriver, simply taking apart the panels, and I'll update the screenshots as we go. Okay, as you can see, I've loosened the 3 screws that are holding the bottom base, forms the base of the speaker. You know, as a later project, I'm probably going to spray paint this base or put on a different base altogether. It'd be fairly easy to get Krylon paint and just spray that on. But nothing very tricky here. We're just going to take out these 3 screws, and in another second you'll see what this looks like when this base is removed. Okay, we're back. As you can see, I've loosened a number of the Phillips head screws that are attaching the frame. Just to save time, I'm going to take those out. What I like about this, it's a real simple design. It's not very complicated. This comes apart pretty easily. It's not going to be that hard to put back together. Again, I think something that's helpful is just put small labels on the different parts as you disassemble this. Now this piece slides out. There's that. I'll get a sense of what that looks like without the frame. And then the side parts, they come out like so. You can get a sense of that. We'll go to the top end. Looks like we missed a screw. I'm going to take off screws right here and then remove the top part, and we're going to label the different sides. Okay, we're at a point where we can just manually disassemble the various wood parts. They fit pretty easily. I'm going to set that to the side, take off this, go back to the bottom. Alright, now we're down to the speaker and the sock. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a moment, I'm going to label the different parts, left, the top part I put over there, the right, the bottom, and then we're going to come back and we're going to take off these staples. I'll show you how I do that, and then we're going to remove the sock from the speaker. Okay, I labeled all the wooden parts with a black Sharpie. You can't even really see it because this is spray painted black, just to have the orientation marked. And like I said, I like using these picks to remove the screws. And you can do it very gently, just kind of work under one end and the other end. There's one. Okay. Pry up one end, pry up the other end. Now, I've got to say that I had taken off the sock before to inspect the speaker. If your speaker's never been opened or repaired, expect to see many, many more of these staples. There are fewer here than you'd normally expect to see, but this is the basic trick, is to gently pry up the staples while doing as little damage as possible to this fabric sock. So I'm going to do that in just 1 minute, and I'm going to show you what it looks like when you take the sock apart. Okay, we're back. I've spent the last couple of minutes taking apart all the staples. And you can see that I can lift the sock up. Alright, so it's becoming free. The next thing I have to do is I have to carefully unscrew the speaker connection and the fuse holder and slip that through the stock. So I'm going to unscrew this, and I'll show you how to manipulate this without tearing the sock and getting it sort of underneath and away from the sock so we can pull the sock all the way up the length of the speaker. Alright, I removed the screws and I've kind of wiggled this underneath the fabric. And it's easier to do with 2 hands. So I'm probably going to cut the camera in a minute, and maybe I can get it. There we go. So that's free of the sock. There. Alright, what I'm next going to do is just kind of slide the sock up very slowly, bit at a time, the frame. I'll take a couple shots of that, but you can see where I'm going with this. And then when we're done, we're just going to reverse this. We're going to slide the sock back down. Alright, so bear with me.